It's your boy Jimmy Blue, Mr. All Access Elite Boxing, reporting live from Dallas, Texas. I want to thank each and every one of our listeners. Make sure to follow us on All Access Elite Boxing on YouTube. Hit the subscribe button. Also follow us on Facebook, All Access Elite Boxing, Instagram, All Access Elite Boxing. And if you're on Twitter, make sure to follow us at All Access Elite. Again, that's All Access Elite. Listen, guys, we had a hell of a weekend this past Saturday night here in Grand Prairie, Texas, man. It was the home of the return of hard-hitting, venomous Vergil Ortiz. That he was 13-0 with 13 knockouts. He was headlining for the very first time here in his hometown. The turnout was excellent, man. It was a memorable night for Grand Prairie. I mean, it was at the theater, which was the same theater that Vergil Ortiz graduated from. Hell, it's even the same theater that I graduated from many years ago, as well as a lot of other people that reside in the city. One of the things that really stood out to me, man, was just the crowd, man. As soon as I walked in, I mean, I was seeing friends that I hadn't seen in a long time, some close friends, people that I went to high school with, but I was just so surprised, man. I wasn't surprised as far as the turnout, but I was more surprised with the support, if that makes any sense. A lot of people believe in Vergil, man. A lot of people came out to support him. A lot of them were purchasing a lot of, were wearing his T-shirts, his fight night shirts. One of the things that Vergil did for this fight was give a portion of his proceeds of his fight night shirts to a police officer that was recently killed on the line of duty here in the city of Grand Prairie. But he also gave a portion to the former superintendent of the school district who recently passed away as well. I mean, they passed away within weeks of each other leading up to this fight. And, he gave a portion for a school fund foundation. I know Vergil said earlier in the week that he wanted to, really, really open the doors for the kids of Grand Prairie because he didn't really have anybody to look up to growing up other than, of course, his family, his father, people that, that support him. But as far as, a fighter or a boxer that he can look up to, or even an athlete, while he was growing up in the boxing community here in Texas. So he said, he mentioned that he wanted to establish this sort of trend so that people can take notice, people can recognize, but above all, he wants to be able to give back to the community, which was really, really cool, man. Salutes to Vergil. But the night, man, it was a great night of action, a great night of boxing. I mean, you had Antonio Orozco, who was 28-1 with 17 knockouts, I believe, moving up. Well, he wasn't moving up, but this was his second fight at 147. This was also Vergil's second fight at 147. Vergil obviously fought on the co-main event on the Cinco de Mayo undercard of Canelo. He fought Mauricio Herrera, who had never been stopped, faced several, former world champions and things as such. And, I mean, Vergil got the guy out of there pretty fast. I believe it was in the second round knockout, if I'm not mistaken. But nevertheless, man, there was a lot of build up to the fight. Even from media day, from the press conferences to the weigh-ins. I mean, there was several people turned out. I had the opportunity of speaking to Orozco at the weigh-ins as well as the media press conference. The media day. Orozco's a warrior, man. We all know the type of style that he brings. As I mentioned before, he would bring that Mexican style of fighting. He was a lot bigger in person than I expected him to be, as far as from a frame standpoint. To me, he seemed, very sturdy, very strong. He was a man of few words. When we were talking to him in regards to the fight, he's really shy, man. He's a man of few words, but I mean, he just, in my opinion, he just didn't seem really confident. Body language says a lot. Eye contact, things as such. I feel I do a pretty good job of reading people, and to me, I don't think he felt confident entering into this fight. I don't know if it was weight issues or whatever the case may be, but I know that when he signed for this fight, he mentioned that he wasn't hesitant to take this fight. This is the fight that he wanted because he knew it was going to catapult him into a potential title shot. Now, granted that he had his opportunity at the 140-pound weight division, but came up short with Jose Ramirez. He was able to go the distance with the unified champion. Ortiz, on the other hand, 13-0, 13 knockouts, hadn't gone more than 27, 29 rounds, something like that. There's been a lot of hype on this kid, rightfully so. Several boxing enthusiasts, I know ESPN, Yahoo Sports had him ranked as one of the top prospects in the world. I know that we've been rooting for Vergil, been following Vergil for quite some time, and we know the type of potential that this kid has. Being that he spars several world champions, he's a gym rat. Everybody, speaks very highly of him. You ask anybody. We had an opportunity to chat with Julio Cesar Chavez Jr., who also fought this past weekend, and we spoke with him a couple of days before his fight, and we asked him, hey, what are your thoughts on Vergil Ortiz Jr.? And he was like, man, the kid's a beast. He's a monster. He's a tremendous puncher. He seems like he's very disciplined, and that he made the perfect move with going to coach Robert Garcia. He mentioned that it was a great fit for him, and that as long as he continues on the path that he's in, he's going to become very successful. Now, let's not forget that Vergil Ortiz Jr. was also, he was raised and trained by his father growing up, along with several people who's helped out along the way as well at the Vivero Boxing Gym here in Dallas, Texas. Coach Hector, Gene Vivero. But this kid has the goods. During the fight, I saw more things from Vergil that I hadn't seen before, and I had an opportunity to speak to his dad after the fight, and I asked him, look, we saw your son fighting on his back foot. We saw him again fighting on the ropes with his back against the ropes, and that's not something that we really seen Vergil do before. And as his father mentioned, he was like, hey, listen, obviously in the first round, he almost got Antonio Orozco out of there. Not many people thought that he would, especially in the first round. I picked the fight to be a 6-round knockout, and I was spot on with my prediction. I knew Antonio Orozco was going to be coming forward. He was going to give Vergil an element that he hadn't yet seen as far as a pro in the ring. But I think more or less it was just Vergil's timing, his confidence. He was faster, stronger, bigger, and he knew what he wanted to do in there. It took him a couple of rounds to make a couple of adjustments, like his father mentioned. Hey, man, it's boxing. Sometimes you have to, fish them in. You got to bait them. You got to trap them. You got to pull them. And that's exactly what Vergil did. It took him 6 rounds, which was 1 round more than he's ever gone before. But, the performance that he put up, not to take anything away from Orozco, because Orozco's a live dog. He dropped Orozco 3 times in the 6th round. It's very, very impressive because nobody was able to ever stop Orozco. I thought Vergil displayed an excellent jab. I thought he did very well throwing uppercuts. I would have liked to see him throw a little bit more body shots, but nevertheless, he was still able to set up a lot of his punches. Orozco seemed a little bit slower, in my opinion. I don't know how much he went in weighing. My guess would be probably 157, potentially 160, but he seemed a little bit slower. Once Orozco would have come on, you can tell that Vergil was kind of holding back just a little bit. But again, it goes back to, baiting him in, allowing him to think that, he's doing something when in reality he's walking into something. And that's exactly what we saw during the fight. Once Vergil came out of the ring, or even his ring entrance, man, the crowd erupted. The crowd was so hyped during this fight, chanting his name, his last name, his first name. They even chanted the high school chant, "All GP." It was just a very, very memorable night. As far as what's next for Vergil, that I'm not sure. I had an opportunity again to speak with his father after the fight. If you haven't checked it out, please make sure to check it out on All Access Elite Boxing on YouTube. We asked him, hey, what do you want next for your son? And he mentioned, Listen, my son is really, he's in a position where he's good. He's too good for his own good, that it's going to be difficult to, get him a fight, but he wants to be able to continue moving up in the rankings. He mentioned he didn't want an opponent that was going to be too easy for his son, but in the same sense, he didn't want to throw him yet to the dogs. Vergil admitted himself after the fight that he still has a lot to learn. He still wants to continue improving, and he feels that he's not yet ready to fight an Errol Spence Jr. Which he feels that, with Errol Spence, probably in about another 2 more years, but it'll more than likely be at 154 pounds. And let me just tell you guys something. If that fight were to happen here in Dallas, just with the buzz alone, it would easily damn near fill up the Cowboy Stadium. We had the opportunity to talk to some fight fans. Everybody that I asked, what do you want to see from Vergil next? Who do you want to see him fight? Everybody was clamoring and asking for Errol Spence Jr. Obviously, Vergil's only 21 years old. He only has 14 fights. I mean, it may be a little too soon, but I mean, a couple of fights from now, I mean, that's definitely a realistic option for Vergil. I threw some names out there for his dad. Hey, the Zone has Chris Algieri, Maurice Hooker. He's also a Dallas fighter that's looking to move up in the 147-pound weight division. You have Thomas Delorme, who recently got a draw with Jesse Vargas. And I even threw Jesse Vargas' name out there. A lot of people are saying, well, Jesse Vargas is trying to call out Munguia at 154, and he's moving up to 154. But obviously, Jesse Vargas is not a 154-pound fighter. He's a good fighter. He's fought some of the best. Timothy Bradley, Manny Pacquiao. But, I mean, it's one of those things that a win against those guys, it'll keep him active. He'll gain more and more experience from more experienced guys that's been fighting for years. I even threw out Pablo Cesar Cano, tough Mexican fighter who's with Golden Boy, recently knocked out Linares at 140, but that dude always fluctuates between 140 147. He's fought Eric Morales, Sugar Shane Mosley, Paulie Malignaggi, you name it. So he has that experience, and that's going to be the most difficult part. If you think about it, I mean, you have Golden Boy Promotions. They don't really have a lot of 147-pound fighters. All the top talent is at PBC. Crawford, excuse me, not Crawford, but, Spence, Porter, even Lipinets. Lipinets is at with PBC, I believe. You have Danny Garcia. You have Manny Pacquiao. I mean, from my understanding, Vergil won the WBA gold title, which the next one in line would be the regular title, thus becoming the super champion if he were to fight Manny Pacquiao and beat him. So I don't know if it gives him like an immediate shot or makes him his mandatory, but I know definitely it moves him up in the rankings. But then you also have guys like at top rank, which is Crawford, Jose Ramirez. You have Igor Kovalevskis, undefeated from Lithuania. But it's going to be tough, man. I really don't know what's next for Vergil. It's just going to be difficult to find him fights. So what I'm thinking is more likely he would be either, fighting some guys from Europe or from Mexico with, either undefeated records or high in the rankings, and just doing it that way, trying to get Vergil closer to at least 20 fights, so that once he enters into that area, then at that time, he would become mandatories to fight, the Keith Thurmans of the world, the Danny Garcias, the Spences and things as such. So, just look out for Vergil, man. It's going to be a great night. Again, my hat's off to Antonio Orozco. He was a warrior. He went out on a shield. And that's tough, man, going to another opponent's hometown and, giving it all you got. I know when they asked him after the presser, hey, man, what's next for you? He mentioned, hey, you know what? I just want to spend time with my family and my 4 kids. He's 31 years old. I'd actually like to see Antonio Orozco, maybe fight Mauricio Herrera, get a comeback fight, then maybe even possibly fight Maurice Hooker at 147, and then just keep giving him fights and see where he goes from there, because he's a tough, gritty fighter, man. So respect to them. But if you get a chance, make sure to follow us. Make sure to subscribe. All Access Elite Boxing on YouTube. Follow us on Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter at All Access Elite. Again, it's your boy Jimmy Blue signing off, Mr. All Access Elite Boxing. Thank you for watching.